But I think before we talk about that, I need to talk about what is the buyer getting? Is it pure user-initiated, high-quality CBS level video, if that's what they're expecting, or is it an in-banner placement, which can drive significant reach, but is a whole different experience? And then from there, I think you talk about targeting.
Okay, you bring up CBS and we talk about the quality of reviews, so let's actually segue to ask the gentleman from CBS. Is there a nuance in advertisers' mind where, for example, they will be okay with an in-banner placement on a CBS because of the higher quality of, let's say, the brand and the content, or is there like a general, blacklist? Thou shalt not run anything in banner, otherwise we won't pay for the impression.
Yeah, I mean, I think from where we sit, we squarely sit right in the middle of I think the nexus between where the broadcast buyers are currently, and this changes quarterly, it seems like, and where the digital buyers are. We're seeing more and more, and we were very, very active. We've been active in the upfront the last, 3 years. This past upfront, which is the silly season part of where the network does all their big presentations and feed buyers a lot of shrimp and oysters and drinks, and then 3 weeks later we write $3 billion in ad sales, and that's been going on for 50 years, I think. So to get in front of that locomotive at this point is not going to change. So what I think you're really starting to see are a lot of people trying to jump on board and get on that locomotive and try to get a piece of that pie. So long way of answering your question, which is these are from where I sit, these are sight, sound, and motion budgets. So display-based video is not something that is generally acceptable with the advertisers that we're tending to do business with in the way that I just laid out.
Okay, I want to now shift the focus to the ad agencies and representing the buyers. Is it possible to even target at scale? And I want to define that in terms of efficiently and effectively. What I mean by that is just efficiently, or does it get so cost prohibitive that why bother? And then the effective part is, could you get scale? Because you could reach a certain very narrow, limited audience, but if you're not actually getting a big enough amount of number, then why bother? So either one?
I can start it off. I think we really have to define what we mean by scale. And I think for some advertisers, especially, I represent some entertainment clients for NBC, we are looking for very narrow audiences. And it may be a line item on a buy that we balance out with something that is a little more efficient and gets us more reach. But there's a definite value to having that on the plan because we know we are reaching the right people. So, I would also like to kind of speak to where you guys were headed. Where is there a difference between where the placement is? Is it pre-roll or is it in banner? And there does have to be that transparency, absolutely. They have completely different functions for us. So we want to be transparent with the clients so that they understand, what type of engagement they're going to get in banner versus what they're going to get from the video itself. So whether it's forced or something that they're choosing to engage with.
I prefer push-pull versus force, but yeah.
No, that part is tricky, and I think that's why, when everyone is talking about online video, or do I use an ad network, am I going to use an exchange, how can I find the scale? Just going from one side now to the other side of the desk and knowing what we're up against when it was at an ad network, you run the risk of, ending up in some really crummy inventory if you're trying to do something at scale. And to your point about being, open and honest about where that ad is going to run, I think we've lost sight as we first sought out to buy pre-roll, and now we're like, oh, well, sometimes we end up in banner. I think we need to sort of go back a step and remind everyone that we're talking about pre-roll first. Not like, well, you might end up in a banner. No, because then we're not at scale, and then we're not targeting that audience properly.
I don't know if Eric, you want to jump in before we go to Amir, but you use the word crummy, and I'm not saying this to be funny, but are there levels of crummy? Because, you sort of have, we're on the other side where advertisers come to us. And we start off always with the filet mignon, the best of breed, et cetera, but there's also that time when the ad agency wants to build fully, the marketer's like push, one more impression. So how do you define that? Like to me, I say content, there's ultra premium content, Avatar. Premium content, super premium, HBO. Premium, what we produce, made for web, really good. And then prosumer, which is the crazy guys on YouTube with massive audiences, and then UGC. Do you have a sort of checklist or, different spheres in terms of what is crummy? Well, first, Amir, you could, go ahead, by all means, anybody.
I'll take it because this conversation is, I think, quite strange, right?
Thank you, or no?
Think how crazy it is.
Strange in a good way.
Strange in a very good way. And just slightly crazy that in 2012 we still have this conversation. At the end of the day, we've learned to expect complete transparency and control in buying anything else. Like, you go to Amazon, you know exactly what you're buying, you read reviews, you complete the process in 5 minutes. And we actually have all of this in media, operational and working right now. We just need buyers to care about this and start to adopt new technologies. It's not rocket science, and I'm not talking about things that will be 5 years from now. I'm talking about things that exist here today that you can buy across massive scale, across multiple exchanges, probably the vast majority of inventory today, that you can actually make decisions about what size that you want to buy, what audiences you want to reach, what kind of content you want to be with, and then you can complete and execute this buy literally in minutes. So I think we need to just everything that we've learned to expect buying other stuff, applying to media. Don't treat it like a different animal. We deserve this in media as well.
But to answer your question directly, can you target at scale like display? No. Right?
Is that because of where the market? Because video's not nascent. Like, video's been around for many years, almost 15 years if you go back into pop culture.
It's not even the market. It's the internet, right? I was talking to LJ before. My son's in kindergarten, right? So we're talking planets and the solar system and everything like that. And this is the analogy that I'll give. As compared to display, right? There's display being the Earth. Video is the moon, right? Video is 40 times smaller than display on a per impression basis. So just there, right? There's so much less frequency. There's so much less tonnage to do some of that sophisticated targeting and actually do it at scale that you can't do the things that you're expecting to do with display, just because you can always create more display. That's one of the problems with display, right? Just popping up a banner on a page and just do that ad nauseum, and we've got now what we're dealing with banner lines and everything like that.
So
but fundamentally,
I actually think so.
Yeah, fundamentally, there's such a disparity that you can't do it. And you probably can do it, right? You probably can use that intender data and target a few people with packaging.
So
yeah.
I actually disagree, also to make this kind of interesting.
Cool.
Let's get it on.
We have about 85% of the U.S. Population watching videos on a regular basis. The reason that we have so much inventory in display is that because people found ways to manufacture false inventory in display. And there is unlimited amount of supply.
I think you're agreeing with it.
And this is why value of display is going to zero.
Guys, speak into your mics.
He's agreeing with me. I'm waiting for you.
So it's maybe the moon and Earth, but it's maybe gold and sand, right? You want to find, there's enough gold out there for us to buy. We don't have to compromise on, ad impressions that are not even viewable, not making the impact on the consumers.
That wasn't the point I was making. The point I was making was just there's so much less raw material, so to target on a really hyper level just becomes difficult versus what we've become accustomed to do with display. You can still target. You can still do things like cool psychographic targeting, everything like that. There's just 40 times less.
Yeah, I mean, and the reality too is that I think we're in an interesting time where we as an industry need marketers and agencies to help us understand and tell us what they want for video, because what I've heard over the last 5 months may be different than what I heard the last 18 months, which is we want to buy you guys the same way we buy television. We want to put you in this box, and which I get, because the volume is so much and the money is there, that they need some kind of standardization in terms of how to evaluate what it is that we have. And when you think about, I've heard a lot of agencies describe it this way, where you have the head, the thorax, and the tail, and the CBSs, the ABCs, the NBCs of the world are the head of that. The thorax is maybe the middle tier guys, the Yahoos, the AOLs that are producing great content. You guys that are producing great content, and then the tail, which is your the UGC stuff, and that's sort of the long tail that'll scale at the end of the day, but you don't always really know what you're getting, and that's more, I think, on the ad network side and things like that. So I think the point being is that if you're going to put big publishers like us, and look, we have a lot of video. We don't have an endless supply of video, and we're growing at 100%, year over year, and frankly quarter over quarter. We've had huge quarters and seen massive growth. But at the end of the day, if you're looking to buy us on a GRP-based model over here, but then try to get a geo-targeted campaign for political over here, and then try to get us to do some behavioral targeting, these guys are right. I mean, there's just not enough there to do all those different things.
Is that actually part of the problem, that with TV, with linear programming, you can force audience to watch things, basically, but online, especially with video, because so many people do watch crappy videos and GCs, that a lot of the supply is in such non-desirable content that it's creating, I don't want to call it a false scarcity, but, and that my point is this something that maybe will never be addressed? Because, what we've learned early on is there's a very big difference between the kind of content that normal human beings want to watch, what advertisers want to advertise, and then what distributors want to sort of put on the front page. The common area is really, really small, actually. So do you guys think that this will ever get addressed, or are we going to sit here in 5 years and have the same discussion about we're screwed, not enough supply, and oh look, we're still running in banner, and you're like, it's 2017,
I mean, I think, and I'm going to shut up after this, but if you look at the double verifies, the ad expos of the world, and those guys that are very, very prevalent right now, I mean, we're trying to address, I think, the industry is trying to address the concerns that you just raised.
But you bring up like Double Verify and all these third-party partners, and to be honest, coming from the video side, nothing was done at scale. I mean, I don't care if you're Adapt, Uni, CBS, everyone had a problem with doing something at complete and total scale and it being consistent throughout their entire platform. So when you say, are we going to be here in 5 years? We just might be, because everyone has their own way of doing something, and outside of we sit on top of all the exchanges, that's becoming a little bit more unified, but don't you find that we're all running into the same problem with this is the way Adapt does it, this is the way Uni does it, this is the way Undertone does it? I mean, I don't know what the solution is right now, and I don't think that anybody sitting up here might have that. And if we do,
well, I'll tell you, I hear you and I agree with you, because, and that's why, as an industry, I think we need to do a better job of helping to define that, because we're not, and it's getting defined for us. So I'm arguing with broadcast buyers on GRP-based models and demographic buying when I have the ability to do really unique things with creative, with targeting. And I don't totally agree on the scale side, because we're doing more business on the local level than we ever have before, and that's political has been huge for us this year, and we're able to target locally at scale for the first time. A lot of QSR business, we're running a lot of QSR business regionally that is scaling. So I guess it depends on what the definition of scale is.
I was going to say, what is the definition of scale? Is there like a black and white,
Exactly. I think we're talking in the wrong dimension. Like, we think of scale in the dimension of impression, and honestly, you can put 50 banners under the fold, and it will make maybe 50 impressions, but 0 impression on the consumer. So I think we should actually learn from what TV buyers are doing for 50 years already, and talk about people, and talk about the number of times that we're in front of people, and how often we are in front of the right people. And when you switch talking about people, not impressions. We don't have a scale problem. We are reaching 85% of the population. You can buy them. You can be in front of them once, twice, 5 times if you want, and you actually can execute it. I think it's only about the definition of scale. Don't measure it in impression, measure it in people.
Everything will become digital in 5 years.
Okay, I want to be
Yeah. So we'll be here in 5 years. We'll be talking about the problem of 5 years. But this gets fixed when all the good things that we're doing, right? All the great ideas that come from conversations like this and others, just get migrated into TV being digital and a unified platform and a unified buy.
So running with that, we talked about another thing, which was at any point in the future, are you going to have one CPM or CPMs converge basically across devices and platforms? So platform being like TV, web, and all that, and devices obviously being within online, or no, just like TV, phones, and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, I think that we're getting closer to that point. I think I'm going to say the total holy grail, but a big additive component for us that we're hoping to solve for in the next 6 to 8 months is going to be VOD. I mean, CBS is doing, I think we're in the neighborhood of 400 or 500 million video starts. I think it's a month on VOD, and right now there's no dynamic way to insert advertising into those streams. So if we can figure out a way to get dynamic ad serving and combine that with what we're doing from a broadband perspective and aggregate all of that into what's going on into the big screen experience, I think that there is the potential to get to a single, GRP, at least in our world, or a single CPM.
Anybody else before we move?
Yeah, I agree. I think the work that Nielsen and Comscore and RedTrack are doing is extremely important. So there will be measurement across devices, and when there will be measurement across devices, there also going to be a unified CPM because buyers will be able to intelligently move budgets between those devices based on the value that they provide.
It doesn't need to be the same CPM, but there needs to be cross-platform measurement, analytics, optimization for sure.
The term you used that I like was one single insertion order of different CPMs.
Yeah.
To give you credit for not stealing your idea. Okay, clearly online video is doing a lot of things well, but we haven't really solved it, not even close, which is a good problem. I mean, there's good sort of things to tackle. But clearly consumers are moving to mobile. So are we screwed because of that? Because we haven't even really been able apparently to scale it, efficiently, and it's the house is burning online, and now we have to start figuring out things for mobile. Or does mobile present a salvation to say, well, all these things that we did not fix, or sort of all these weaknesses of online video, will now address them in mobile? So are you on the side that says, no, it's just going to exacerbate the matter and add to the problems, scare off marketers, or on the au contraire, is it going to be great, let's fix it through mobile first?
I think we should be much more positive here because there are actually
that doesn't sell newspapers, remember that?
again, if we think display is the model for doing everything right, it's just not the case. Having infinite supply and zero value is not what we want for video. So the fact that there is some scarcity is a good thing. There is value to those ads, there's value to those impressions. So let's take credit for what we as an industry did very well, I think, and we'll continue to do well because we're adding more and more parameters that allow buyers to evaluate the actual impact of those ads. Now, mobile, so the delivery, the buying, all of that is actually already exists already. The missing piece is measurement that we'll do it across web and TV, and then I think you'll see the dollars flowing in this direction because it's a great user experience.
That's the big challenge is the measurement piece, and if we can figure out that measurement piece cross-platform, then I think all of this other stuff is going to fall into place. We have some agencies right now. Look, we're doing well in mobile. I mean, our products are scaling, and we're selling them. Our fantasy products on the sports side for mobile are gangbusters. I mean,
but that's not video, is it? When we talk fantasy,
there's some video components in there, but TV.com for us is a video app that is doing gangbusters for us from a sales perspective, and we're launching other things from a CBS.com perspective that are doing quite well for us from a scalability and ad sales perspective. So I think once we figure out how to measure all of these things appropriately, and we're getting there, we're very close. Some agencies have different ways of doing it versus others with some spit and glue right now, but we're getting there, and I think it's going to be positive once we get there.
Do you think that as an industry, Amir, you might not like this question, by the way, but do you think as an industry we need to keep stressing on targeting and tracking, or do you think that we need to push that back and say maybe we overpromised, maybe we sort of said that this was, salvation to make advertising ROI positive, which realistically advertising is usually ROI negative for the foreseeable future, whether people want to admit it or not. It's a marketing expense after all. It's an investment, don't get me wrong, but it is negative. So do you think that we need to do more tracking, targeting is the why we're so great, or do we need to sort of set expectations back around tracking?
So tracking and targeting are part of what digital brings to advertising. Those are great properties, and it's great if we can use it. So we should definitely not go away from this. It's all about setting the right expectations. Like if you have a system where you can put your targeting and in real time get pricing and availability and the expected performance of your campaign, then you can make your own trade-off. You can reach 10 people in specific segment in specific location or expand it. It's all about the information that is coming back. And again, take it to the regular products. Like I want iPhone that is a larger screen than the iPhone 5 and it's working
and
it's fine and I can fold it in my phone. It just doesn't exist. But if I know in real time that it doesn't exist, I'm not disappointed. So it's all about the information flowing back and forth between the buy side and the sell side.
I'll disagree.
Expand?
I mean, obviously, we need to invest in targeting and tracking and reporting. You can't say no to that. But there's a lack of focus, there's a lack of investment, and then I think this is leading to some of the issues of why we're sitting here right now. I mean, things like formats, and even things like user experience, in how we can, to your point, right? If advertising doesn't work, we actually make this stuff work, right? We had last summer, I think we had an intern take the Loomis use chart and plot it on a marketing funnel. I know a lot of people talk about this, but we actually had somebody do it. And we sectioned it off, right? Awareness, consideration, intent. And I mean, the mess at the bottom, obviously, right? Less in consideration, and then so few, like truly focused on making formats better, making the intersection of the creative and technology actually work. That's the opportunity. I think there's so few playing there outside of premium publishers that's where there needs to be focus. Obviously, that's where we're focused on, but that's how we're going to move the needle on this thing.
Okay, so I like to do something called lightning round. We're going to do that in a few minutes. Before doing that, this is not lightning round. Then we'll take some questions. I'm going to ask 4 questions, and I'm going to ask them, and then you're 5, so 4 of you can jump in on a different one. But I want to address all 4. Okay. So we talk a lot about supply, and we shouldn't forget that a lot of the supply, it's on YouTube, but there's those things called portals that still drive a lot of supply. And of course, Facebook. So these are the 4 questions.